initially?
Well, not initially. I started getting classical training when I was in high school and then went into
really?
college. Mm-hmm.
So you were just born with this gift.
I always sang. I always did that. And, being in a church and all of that, that was all part of my upbringing.
But Cynda, a lot of people in the church, they just don't, it doesn't develop. It was within, right?
Well, it's all I wanted to do.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to do. Most kids, they have, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a teacher. I never said anything else, but I want to be a singer, I want to be an actress, writer.
So you knew from early on.
I always knew. I don't remember ever not knowing that that's what I wanted to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was fortunate that way because I was focused.
Mm-hmm.
And so the choices that I made were all geared towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I was always doing some kind of play, singing with somebody.
Now this is all in school, like
all in school, in
school,
church.
Church.
I started actually in Chicago. I had the most wonderful music teacher. Her name was Mrs. Waits at Bennett Elementary. And she had us singing music that was so far advanced for our age range. But she didn't care. She's like, you can do this. So, like, for instance, we did the Mikado.
Now, what grade were you in?
This was 6th, 7th, 8th, around there.
Okay.
We did the Mikado. We would perform and compete in choral competitions. She said, you all have the ability to do these things, and she would challenge us. So besides working with my uncle, I had that, and then I sang in the church. My primary church was in Indiana, my grandfather's church.
Okay.
And so
he was a minister. Yes. Okay.
Every summer I was singing in a choir when I was there, and I think I was 13 when I had my first recital. Mm-hmm. My uncle said, it's time for you to really do an entire show, to do a concert. And so we put one together, and that was the first time I ever sang an entire, hour and a half.
And you were 13?
I was 13.
So what are your parents saying at this point? Are they like, we always knew you're going to be, this was your calling. We always knew you had the talent. So they were great. They just got out of the way and let it happen.
Yeah. They did.
That's great, because a lot of times parents, they get in the way of all that.
They get practical.
And then they have their own mind and their own vision about what they want for their kids. Doctor, lawyer,
right.
Engineer.
Well, I always sang. I mean, I don't even realize how much I sing. My father said, everything you said you sung. So I was constantly singing.
Wow.
And they're actually not very happy with the choices I've made in my career, because that's what they wanted me to do. My father was like, you're a good actress, but you should be singing.
Oh.
My whole family says that, you should be singing because it's the gift that you have and blah. But those are not the doors that open for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why do you think those were not the doors?
Well,
because entertainment, and I don't know, as you obviously have been in it a while. You are gifted and talented. This is what you desire. Why do you think?
I think it was mainly me, my choices. I was very religious.
Mm-hmm.
Very religious.
Now, when you say religious, like you mean?
I mean, I went to church 6 days a week and loved it.
Okay.
There were certainly some things that I learned that affected me in a negative way in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it has to do with sexuality and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was my social life. It was my world.
Mm-hmm.
I was in school. I did that, but
so church was your social outlet.
It was my social outlet. All my friends were there. I had all these creative outlets there because we sang, we danced, we did everything in our church. It was a great church. And what was I talking about?
So we were just talking about what do you think the difference between the singing and the acting, and why the doors weren't open for you in the singing world?
So when I went to New York, and Mo Better Blues was my first movie, and that was a lot of sexuality in that movie, so I called my grandfather. I'm like, Papa, what do I do? There's nudity. Mm-hmm. What do I do? He said, are you an actress? I said, yeah. He said, okay, then I don't understand the question.
Then act.
I
wow.
said, okay. And so I sang and I acted in a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it set me up that way. The thing is, I was playing a role. I was a jazz singer in that movie. I was not a jazz singer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about jazz. I'd never studied jazz until I knew I was getting the part. So when the movie came out, that's what people wanted. They wanted the character I played, not me.
Now yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, because that movie, which was one of my favorite movies, it just cast you in that. And you were so perfect for it, right? And you came across like, this is you. But I'm sure from a professional standpoint, and I'm sure other actresses maybe struggle with that too, right? Like, but I'm so many other things.
Yeah. And vocally, like I said, jazz was not what I wanted to sing.
Now, what were you singing before the movie? What types of music?
Before the movie, I was singing primarily gospel pop kind of music. I was doing a lot of writing, but what I really wanted to do was kind of like an alternative rock.
Oh.
And I was doing a lot of writing, and I ended up having a couple of bands where I got to perform it, and people loved it, but they wanted Clark McCoy.
Oh, so they didn't want you.
They didn't want me. They wanted Clark Benacourt.
Yeah. So this is what you love. I wanted this alternative type of style of writing and singing and performing. Did you get a lot of gigs to go and perform?
Yeah, I did. But under the band's name.
Yeah.
They didn't know who I was. I mean, I had my hair, I cut all my hair. My hair was really short, and I had a just totally different look. I don't wear gowns, you know. I'm I'm a t-shirt and jeans girl with cowboy boots, and you know, and they didn't know what. I will never forget. We had this huge show, and
where were you performing? In the Midwest?
This was in LA.
Okay, so you're in LA now. Okay.
Yeah, I moved to LA, and all these record labels came looking for Cynda. And I did this show, and they were like, oh my God, that was amazing, and blah, 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 and we need to talk. Well, when's Cynda going on? And they're talking right to me. And I said, well, I am Cynda. And they're like, oh, wow. We thought you sang jazz.
So this was after Mo Better Blues?
After Mo Better Blues.
Okay.
After Mo Better Blues.
So what made you decide not to fall into the jazz category and become that singer?
I at that time, 23, I was young and I wasn't feeling it.
So you were only 22 in Mo Better Blues?
23. I wasn't feeling it.
Baby.
I was a baby, and jazz to me was old people music.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I didn't want to.
So you were playing a part. This is what I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to sing jazz. I just didn't.
Do you think that role then came before you were ready for it, or do you think it was a perfect time?
Yeah, I was ready to act it.
You were ready to act.
I have my voice it's a chameleon. I can sing any style of music, any style. The only thing that I would never try to do is like lots of runs, because it doesn't sound natural for me. But I can sing any style of music. Musical theater, opera, country, rock, soul.
Is this your training center? You're just gifted like this.
I'm blessed that way.
Wow.
I'm blessed that way. But the classical training, tell everybody that wants to be a singer to get classical training, or to be a dancer to get classical training, or to be an actor to get classical training, because it's a base. If you can figure that stuff out, then you can do anything, because for as a singer, you learn how to breathe. You learn how to protect your voice. You learn how to be heard. There are so many things that those basics teach you, so that you can sing in musical theater and not ruin your voice. So many people have natural gift. They have a natural gift, but they don't learn how to use it properly.
Trained. Yeah.
And then they go out, and then within 2 years of being on Broadway, they don't have a voice, or they have nodes.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, part of it was drugs, but Whitney Houston had the most amazing voice.
Absolutely.
But she, oftentimes, pushed it so hard and didn't protect it, so that by the time, later in life, adding her lifestyle, her voice completely changed. It was a lot lower. It was still beautiful.
Yes,
She didn't have the range.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What's her name? The girl, the white girl that's the soul singer that everybody loves. Hello.
Oh yes, Adele.
Same issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She has gorgeous voice, sang her butt off for a year, and then got notes.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to protect her voice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I thank God for the training. But before I even started training, I was singing all kind of music.
Wow. So your uncle gives you a chance, and he's like, okay, it's time. Let's do your recital.
Mm-hmm.
You do your recital. I'm sure you just blew everybody out the water with it. And then what happens?
And then I just continue on because I was just a freshman in high school. I was
Mm-hmm.
going into my freshman year of high school. And then from that
You
point
went to high
on-
school in Chicago.
in Muncie, Indiana.
Okay.
For the next 8 years, I did everything. Everything was about singing or acting, everything.
So you were driven. You were auditioning for everything at the high school, right? Everything that came up, you were auditioning.
I was never not in something.
Wow.
I was always in a show of some sort, always singing, always, all the way till I graduated from college. And, I didn't go to parties.
What did you major in college?
Theater.
You did. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was your focus. So it was college, and then your social life was church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did you figure out, or what happened with the audition? So you graduate from college, you go right to New York?
Yeah.
After college? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Without any reason, just to be an actress or just to be a singer? What was your purpose for going to New York?
I wanted to do Broadway.
Okay.
I wanted to do Broadway because of musical theater. And
Who were your cheerleaders then? Who was telling you New York was the place to go?
no one.
This
No,
was all
that's
you?
not true.
Okay.
One friend, my closest female friend, she moved there with me.
Okay.
She quit college a year early, and her father was angry
Of
about
course.
that and blamed me for it. I was like, I didn't tell her to do that. But yeah, she was it. My family was against it. Nobody wanted me to go to New York.
Why did they want you to go?
They were afraid for me.
Yeah.
Big
city.
Big.
I'm from New York.
Like I said, I was some church girl.
Yes. Yeah.
Who had done all this stuff, yeah, but to go to New York City by yourself?
What is that? But you were confident, right? You were.
Yeah, I was very.
Or was it you were confident? You were ambitious? What was the driving force around?
Like I said, well, I will say this. I had auditioned in Chicago for things, in Indianapolis for things, and every casting director I ever worked with, and my teachers and head of my department all said, you cannot stay in the Midwest because you'll never work. I didn't have the black look.
Yeah.
I wasn't black enough.
Yeah.
I certainly wasn't white enough.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't speak Spanish, so I couldn't pretend like I was Hispanic. So,
Right.
so
Yes.
they were like, "You're not going to work here. You're good, but
Yes.
you're not going to work here."
So why is it because of the competition? There were others. You would have been. What's the thing about the Midwest and being fair skinned, light skinned?
That wasn't in at that point.
Wasn't it? So they were looking for actresses or singers who looked African American.
Yes.
Typical brown, the brown skin look.
Yeah.
That said,
Yeah.
when I looked at you, I know exactly. I know that you're African American or you're
Right.
black, not mixed or.
The entertainment world. If you were to go back and look at all the commercials of the time that got shot here, you wouldn't have seen people that looked like me or even you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I used to work in advertising. I used to work for Leo Burnett. And as a copywriter, as a creative, my job was to cast women like you. And so I didn't necessarily have the power because I didn't stay long enough to become a group creative director or executive creative director. But in working with the team, it was what we need, particularly if you're thinking and you're working with Caucasians, they want to make sure, we need to make sure their selection, even if it was just very subconscious, was what they deemed to be black.
Right.
And so fair skin, light skin, there wasn't a whole lot.
No, you're confusing. I would hear that all
Unless
the time.
they were looking to cast you for mixed, yeah.
Right. Which back then they weren't doing